In this video, I'll be going over the cello part for the Mozart. And before I get started, if you haven't yet watched my video going over the Vivaldi, please pause this video and go watch that one first, because I'm going to be referring to some information from that video. All right, assuming you're still here, let's get into it. So first of all, Mozart is not a Baroque composer, he's a classical composer. And in general, and this is very much true for Mozart, classical composers are much more explicit with how they want the music to be played. You'll notice, looking at this part, as compared to the Vivaldi, that there are significantly more dynamic markings as well as articulation markings. Where the Baroque style is more improvisational, you want to kind of lead your sound into the sound that everyone else is making. Here, Mozart is telling you exactly how it's going to be, and don't argue with him. So, in the previous video, when I was talking about how when we have these long repeated sections that we want to kind of lead back and forth with our sound, listening to the other sections, here we just do what Mozart tells us. So looking at measure 11, he wants piano eighth notes, we're going to give him piano eighth notes. Just even. And if we are changing dynamics, where in the Baroque style we might have more swells or scooping motions, here if we've got dynamics, it's either going to be a linear crescendo or a linear diminuendo. There's going to be no curve to it. It's either going down or going up. Now, for the bow stroke, it's going to be a little different than the Baroque style. Where for the Baroque style, remember we had that smile motion where we had the lighter bow, heavier bow, lighter bow. Here, the notes are still going to feel, the sound is still going to feel a little bit separate within the notes, but we're going to move the weight, we're going to move the emphasis of the note toward the front of it, toward the front of your bows, and then back off towards the end. So that's still going to have that feeling of space in between these eighth notes. But the emphasis on the note is in the front of the note instead of the middle of the note. This is going to be more obvious for the, let's see, like our second entrance. So this is measure 1, 2, 3, 4, measure 5, where we've got these eighth notes with eighth rests in between. We're going to put the emphasis on the front of the note and come off the end of the note. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There it is. That was a little flat. So making sure that once again, starting from the string, we're not going to be coming down from above. Once again, we don't want any kind of a bounce here, though it may be very, very tempting. Starting from the string, and we're going to be leaning into the bow slightly, but not too much. Like these are not accented notes, but they are staccato. Also, another thing that's going to be different from the Vivaldi here, vibrato is okay. Like once again, there's not going to be too many spots where we're going to need to use it, but there are places where vibrato is definitely okay to use in the Mozart. Let's see here. A couple spots I want to look at. We definitely, this piece has some more technically complex passages than the Vivaldi. And the first spot I want to look at is measure 30, so go ahead and find that real quick. I'm going to take this under tempo. And this is the kind of spot where you're going to want to have some slow practice. that's about how that's going to go. And honestly, I would not practice any faster than that when you're first looking at this part. And same with the other 16th note sections. Slow practice really is key. And notice for these slurred sections in those few measures, that the first slur is down bow and the next slur is up bow. So it's not an identical pattern. You'll have down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the two slurred pairs are different bows. So be careful and make sure that that is what you're doing when you're practicing. Now, moving on. One thing I just want to note, in measure 68, or actually in measure 67, you've got that whole note that's tied over to the what appears to be an eighth note. That's the shorthand for a measure of eighth notes. But it looks a little bit wonky because it looks like it's tied to a half note. And so what I've marked there above is how it's meant to be played. What that whole note is only tied to 1/8 note value. So you will be rearticulating for the other 7 notes in the bar. I thought it just looked a little strange on the page, so I marked that. So how that is going to be counted is this is from measure 67. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Wait, no, I think that's way too fast. Anyway, bum, 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 bum. Oh no, that's all right. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1. So you only have 1/8 note value tied over, even though it kind of looks like a half note. Let's see, next thing here. Let's take a look at measure 158. This is another tricky, fast part. And a spot like this can look really overwhelming when you're first looking at it. It's like, oh, that's a lot of black on the page. How do I play that? Once again, play it slowly. And one other thing I would suggest for this passage, when you have a long section of fast notes on multiple strings, is practice this on open strings only. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So your first note there in measure 158, that B flat on the G string. So that's on the G string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this passage on the correct strings, just not fingering anything at all. So we've got that B flat on the G string. That C would also be on the G string. That D would be open. Same with the E flat. Same with the F. Same with the G. And now the A natural is on the A string. And so is the B flat. And then back to the A, and so on. You get the idea. So this method lets you go through the passage just with the bow. So you don't have to think about any notes at all. You're just making sure that your bow is playing on the right string at the right time. As string players, when we're struggling with passages like this, it's really easy to blame the left hand and think, oh, it's these notes, it's so hard to get these notes. Oftentimes, the bow hand is having just as much trouble, but it's harder to diagnose those issues. So this lets you isolate exactly what this hand needs to do, so that in the moment, all you need to focus on is this, because this hand already knows what's up. So going through a little bit faster, let's go play it with me. Let's go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bum. There. That was a little fast. Let's actually go through a little bit slower. Let's go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and there. Excuse me. Let me try it again. 4 E and and then that's measure 164 that we just got to. So that's how I would practice that bit. And once you get more comfortable with the bow, building up speed again, then slow it back down and add the fingering. Faster and faster, and work it up to tempo. This spot, and then also there's another spot just like it at 328, just different notes, but it's the same rhythm. Also, notice in those two sections, every time there's every time the phrase starts, there's an eighth note and then the two 16th notes, and the eighth note and the first 16th note are both down. So that's going to be double down each time that starts. Down, down. Down, down. And so on. All right. Let's see. Next thing to go over real quick. Looking at measure 168, and there's a couple other sections like this too, where we split into two parts. And we've got the trills. If the trill has the little natural symbol above it, that means that you're trilling to the A natural above the G. Let's just be aware of that. And let's see, I think that's about all the important tricky spots to look at here. Yeah, so good luck practicing. Once again, I am available for questions about working on getting through those tricky sections. Oh, and I want to make a correction. In the previous video, I said that the videos were due on July 7th. That's my bad. That is incorrect. That is the meeting. That's the group meeting date. And July 15th is when the orchestra recordings are due. So that's my bad. It's on the 15th, not the 7th. So I'll see you I'll see you at the meeting on the 7th then. See you then.